Today it is time for a professional match of StarCraft 2, and what I've got for you is a Zerg versus Protoss, where we find ourselves on the map Ephemeron. Spawning here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones. From South Korea, we are looking inside of the main base of Ragnarok, who I honestly think is one of the most underappreciated Zerg players in the world. This guy is ridiculously good. As of me making the video, he is the number 17 on the planet on Aligalek, which is very, very impressive, yet I feel like no one really talks about this guy. His opponent in the bottom right-hand corner, same story, playing here with the red Protoss probes, we have none other than Trap. Trap had a very good 2019. I actually remember back in 2018, someone asked Maru, and Maru said that he thought that Trap was the best Protoss player in the world at the time, and well, I mean, no one really was talking about Trap. Still, no one really talks about Trap nearly as often as he deserves. In 2019, out of the 3 GSL Code S's, Mr. Trap made it to the Grand Finals twice, losing against both Rogue and then also Dark, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually also made it to the semifinals once, where he got beaten by Maru, if I recall correctly. Long story short, though, both of these guys are very good. Yet no one really talks about them nearly as often as they deserve. So I'm curious to see what they are going to bring to the table. Just, by the way, in case you're unfamiliar, I just looked up one of the most recent results of Ragnarok that really impressed me the most. Just a couple of weeks ago, Ragnarok 4-0'd Cure. I mean, I cast a lot of Cure games. You guys know I'm a massive, Cure fanboy. I'm not really gonna cast the best of 7 series where it's literally just 4 games and, you know, one player gets smashed. But the fact that Ragnarok apparently was able to 4-0 Cure is certainly an indication of his skills. So we'll see what he's gonna bring to the table in this particular one. Honestly, I have been kind of critical recently of Protoss versus Zerg in general, like the matchup itself. There are some excellent opportunities, right? But it feels like the majority of the games that I play on the ladder right now are either someone cannon rushing or, you know, someone just simply sitting back and going for that maxed out sky toss and eventually me dying like 20 minutes later. That's also coincidentally the same style that I've been playing whenever I do play Protoss versus Zerg. I love going for that solid macro-focused Protoss style, and once you inevitably max out on that very strong sky toss army, it's pretty difficult to lose. We'll see what this game will bring to the table, because honestly, I have been a little bit critical of ZVP. It feels like the matchup just doesn't have as much depth as, like, for example, Terran versus Terran, or for example, Terran versus Zerg, where a lot more unit compositions are viable and where we do see a big variety when it comes to the different strategies that players like to go for. Either way, maybe this game can change my mind. I mean, the thing is, at the very least at the pro level, right, it seems like every single game leads towards Archon, Immortal, Zealot. And then with, like, Storm support and eventually into carriers and stuff, it kind of feels like there's not that much, you know, not that much variety for Protoss. Protoss doesn't really have that many options to go for. There are technically other build orders as well, like, for example, Archon, Immortal, with, like, double Stargate openers, but that still kind of leads towards that Archon, Immortal style. It's either, like, straight to Skytoss, so straight towards that late-game Skytoss army, or just simply Archon, Immortal, Zealot into Skytoss. I don't know, it kind of feels like it's all pretty much the same. Maybe I'm just a little bit critical, though. Maybe I'm becoming an old man. I'm 27 now. Back in my day, we had build order variety and different strategies that people would go for. But it's also kind of true that, like, in the first 5 minutes of Zerg versus Protoss, it's pretty much the same game every single time. We see a little bit of harassment between these two players. Trap opted to go for the double adept opening. But, I mean, this is when we really have the first bit of action coming. And guess what? Zerg players have gotten so good that they're really not going to take a whole lot of damage here from just a single Oracle. He did even skip the Spore Crawler as well, but now that he's got 3 Queens over here, guess what? He's going to have to get out of here. And this is kind of, I guess, my critique. It's that players have gotten too good, I suppose. And that they generally speaking, don't really take any damage anymore in the early game. And usually, I mean, if Protoss decides to go for too much of a commitment, right? So say Protoss commits too much to dealing damage, Zerg can just simply defend it, and then overwhelm them with, like, a timing attack. But I really feel like it's mostly down to the Zerg player to go for some variety. Although in the vast majority of the games that I've seen recently, it's all about that Ling Bane Roach Ravager force. But at the very least, Zerg has, like, a little bit more variety when it comes to their mid-game choices. You can, for example, go Hydra Ling Bane, you can go Ling Bane, you can go Muta Ling Bane, you can go Roach Ravager, you can go Roach Ravager Swarm Host Nidus Worm. Like, there's a little bit more, you know what I mean? And for Protoss, it kind of feels like they don't have that many options. I kind of wish Protoss had some more variety when it comes to their build orders in ZVP. Triple Oracle, though, this has become very popular over the last few months. Well, I would say like the last half year or so. One of the reasons why it is very popular is because of Trap. He's currently heading towards that third base here of the Zerg. Only a single queen, only a single spore. And this certainly can now deal a little bit of damage. He's going to end up losing one of those oracles. Doesn't really matter all too much. You don't really need those units for all too much longer. I mean, obviously, it's nice to have them around. He's going to use that recall after killing 8 drones. But I mean, obviously, this is immediately the moment where Ragnarok is going to be left to his own devices. So he will just simply drone up even harder. And potentially even look for a 4th base here in a little bit. Spire is coming up. Okay. I always kind of like this. I wonder if it's intentional. So he's putting the Spire in what seems to be a very wide open position. But he's also putting a bunch of Overlords on top of it. I don't know if this is him trying to hide the Spire. You know, like if he moves these Overlords a little bit more in this direction, right? They would probably be obstructing the Spire and make it very difficult to scout. Well, say no more. Apparently, Trap has already figured out exactly what's going on. 4th hatchery is coming up with those 2 oracles from earlier. Look at that. There we go. They will force the cancel and kill the drone. Pretty annoying, but for the most part, I mean, we're already leading towards that Archon Immortal mid-game. I don't really have a solution, by the way, either, right? Whenever I critique a matchup, I immediately see a lot of people in the comment section asking, like, Lowko, what do you propose they should change? I have no idea. I mean... oh my god, this actually could be a massive disaster. Yeah, oh my god, he just managed to get a bunch of those sentries. The sentries are so valuable. A single one falling at this point? Oh, you know what? Maybe this is not even the end of the world. Now, he doesn't have that much energy anymore on these oracles. As a matter of fact, well, he's going to end up losing an Immortal and then also the 2nd sentry. I don't even know why Trap was out at this point. His 3rd sentry goes down. Adept goes down as well. This is an absolute massive advantage right now for Ragnarok. I don't really know exactly what the Protoss was trying to do out here. I guess he maybe wanted to go for like a bit of a move out. See if maybe he could go for the kill on that 4th. But that was an awful lot of damage since none of these Protoss units really were clumped up. Makes this a very difficult situation to be in. Now, surprisingly enough... it is going to be a Corruptor transition right now from Ragnarok. I actually thought he maybe want to go for like 12 Mutas or something like that, which has become pretty popular as well. Another one of those varieties that Zerg can go for, especially when you know your opponent hasn't really focused that much on those Phoenixes. It's a pretty good choice, especially when you just get a pretty nice advantage. But instead, it's just going to be a couple of Corruptors, probably just there to get rid of these Oracles, and then maybe, you know, idle in like some of the dead spaces to prevent a Prism from absolutely overwhelming him later on. And if he wants to go for Brute Lords, actually, having those few Corruptors available is very nice too. But do you think it's fair critique, though? I'm actually curious in hearing your thoughts, because I've casted a lot of ZVPs over the last few months, and it's pretty much always Archon Immortal Zealot mid-game, right? Now, I don't know exactly what the other options are. Either you go for like a 2-base all-in, but that's kind of stupid as well. Or you can go like double Stargate Phoenixes and then straight into that Sky Toss, but it kind of feels like Protoss kind of lacks something at this point in the game. It's just too predictable. This is by far the best army to go for. I guess there's like the Stalker Colossus, you know, style that people may go for every once in a while. But against that one, I mean, you just go Roaches. Just Roach Ravager absolutely shuts that force down. Either way, though, Ragnarok got himself the 4th base up. He's been droning pretty happily. 69 workers right now here for Trap. Nice. And he's going to be able to now, hopefully for him, do a little bit of damage over here. But I'm looking at this force, and judging by the fact that he ended up losing, you know, those couple of units here in the center, those 3 sentries, that 1 Immortal, it's absolutely massive. There's not even a sentry in his army right now. He's going to have to go back home. He's really not going to be able to get much done. So I'm actually glad he decided to just walk across and then, you know, walk back. This may look like the walk of shame to some of you, but this is actually the sign of a very high-level player. Someone who decides to retreat after recognizing that a situation is not going to be very playable from that spot. This does now open up the opportunity for Ragnarok to go straight up towards the Hive, and obviously with that a greater Spire. The ultimate counter to Archon Immortal Zealot rather is that greater Spire. A couple of Brute Lords, they will absolutely shut this down. Just like 8 Brute Lords will 100% deal with that Protoss mid game. And that's when Protoss is going to have to tech up as well to, like, for example, Tempests or Carriers or something along those lines. So I'm looking at this situation right now for Trap, and I'm not really a big fan of it. It seems like the majority of the games that I've seen recently where Protoss wins, they have to, like, go up towards you know, at Skytle's army really quick. Or, and well, speaking of Skytles, he does go for the Fleet Beacon right now. Or he has to go ahead and, like, win with a big mid-game timing attack. And neither of those things are really happening right now. Well, he could certainly go for a push right here. I don't mind this, although Ragnarok is currently on the prowl as well. Seems to maybe want to go for a bit of a push. He now recognizes that his Protoss opponent is on the creep. There are a ton of Archons in his force, which is amazing. They're great against that Ling Bane army in particular. You cannot really roll your Banelings into those Immortals. Well, speaking of Banelings rolling into things, these Zealots will be picked off. A couple of Zealots right here on the right-hand side as well. But look, Great Aspire is coming up. Trap is going to have to make a call here very soon. Can you really fight this? That's so many Archons, though. Are you gonna just... Oh my god, he's just gonna roll the Banes in. Oh, it takes like 18 Banelings to kill literally one Archon. I'm not even kidding, but there's so much Swarm. Oh, that was an absolute disaster here for the Protoss player. Just losing everything. And honestly, that can all be traced back to those... and by the way, a couple of probes ended up going down as well, but... Yeah, I think a couple of Banes over here. This can honestly all be traced back. He does get the hatch, so that's nice. But this can honestly all be traced back to, like, losing those couple of units that were randomly on a bit of a stroll out in the middle of the map. It makes those timing attacks so much weaker. A couple of force fields can change everything. A couple of, you know, even like, what's it called? A Guardian Shield can make a massive difference against the damage of those Roaches and Ravagers. But as soon as Zerg is left to their own devices, they will go straight up to like 80 workers. And then the Ling Bane army is just going to clean pretty much everything up. So while the ultimate counter, I guess, is that Brute Lord army, the Brute Lords didn't even, you know, need to come out yet. So what are you going to do right now if you're Trap? Kind of feel like he's playing with his back up against the wall right now. It's funny to say that because he does have 4 bases. But I'm just looking at what Zerg has, and it's way more impressive. Okay, now this is cool. Ooh, okay, now I'm getting excited. Rather than going for the Tempest or, like, you know, the continuous Archon Immortal mid-game, he's going for Void Race. Huh. Now, a new upgrade that was recently added to the game is Flux Veins. Well, it's been there for like 3 months now, but, you know, maybe you haven't seen this upgrade yet. This is a movement speed improvement for the Void Race. So Void Rays in ZVP primarily are used as like a counter to like a Roach all-in. And then also when it comes to dealing with Corruptors, they are absolutely amazing. Now keep in mind here, with this mid-game of Ragnarok, he did not get himself a Hydra then. So there's no Hydralisk here. So his only anti-air at this point is, well, Corrosive Piles, as you could just see. But more importantly, also those Corruptors. And once the Corruptors are gone, obviously the Void Rays can just clean everything up. So Ragnarok actually saw just now, I think with an Overseer Scout or something like that, maybe an Overlord, that indeed it is going to be a Void Ray production. He starts up Corruptors immediately. He also starts up a bunch of Spore Crawlers. Very interesting. It's also actually now double Prism coming up from Trap, plus 1 melee, or plus 1 flyer upgrades, rather, for Trap. So it's very interesting as to what his transition is going to be like right now. You can see, though, Trap, he's going up against a Zerg player who's playing extremely cautiously. I think many of us would have tried to commit there and go for, like, the kill. Ragnarok is just playing super solidly, super safely. Really does not take any risks here whatsoever. He's replacing some of that army supply that they lost with a, you know, a bunch more Spore Crawlers and stuff. But you know what? The longer that this goes on, the more I like the position for Trap right now. I mean, I kind of would have liked to see Ragnarok go for a more decided or a more aggressive push, I guess, you know? Like, he was in a beautiful position just a couple minutes ago. Right now, he's actually not in that great of an economic spot anymore. Protoss has secured himself 4 bases. He can go for the 5th base pretty much uncontested. Yeah, this is starting to look a lot nicer right now for Trap. And I think one of the reasons for that is the Void Ray transition. As weirdly as it sounds, the Void Rays kind of force this Zerg player to back off because he can't move out. Like, he needs something to deal with those Void Rays, because if the Corruptors are gone, right, the Void Rays will just simply kill everything else. Especially with that Flux Veins ability, especially at +1, they can deal a lot of damage. Now, I like this too. The mineral dump inside of the main base. This is forcing the Protoss player to sit back, or the Zerg player rather, to sit back and really not come in. Now, Needs to be careful, though. That is an awful lot of Corruptors. Prismatic Alignment, very good as well. As soon as Prismatic Alignment runs out, so that's that beaming ability you saw just now on the Void Race, these Corruptors can once again move in, and it is going to be on cooldown for like a minute or so from now. Ooh, he's going very deep. I don't know if I like this position all too much. Corruptors, though, they are indeed flying overhead a couple of those Archons. Bit of a gamble, though. I feel like you need to recall. Don't you recall here? Yeah, he does recall, but actually, oh my god, the Void Race did not get recalled. They're in a bit of an awkward spot. Apparently, we did now learn that despite the Void Rays being much faster than they once were, they are still not as fast as Corruptors, especially when they get the inner turn right here. You can just simply Parasitic Bomb them all down, and, well, there we go. Those big Void Ray balls. They're very scary. Right now, though, I think that Ragnarok is going to feel quite a bit more comfortable. Now, by the way, one thing I did not mention yet earlier is the mid-game that a lot of Zerg players like to go for right now as well, and that's Hydra Lurker. So that's one of the other varieties that Zerg can go for at this point. When you go for the Hydra Den, you may as well go for the Lurker Den, because the Lurker Den is absolutely phenomenal. He didn't plant it down just yet. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if we're going to be seeing it here in a little bit, because it's such a good ability. Or it's such a good option to go for that, you know, very strong Lurker force as well. So basically all I'm saying, right? Balance-wise, it seems like Zerg versus Protoss is doing pretty good. I think it's pretty much even right now. Although, don't quote me on that. I think balance-wise, it's pretty good. It's just that Zerg has way more variety in the options that they can go for. Protoss really is kind of stuck with just, like, you know, varieties on the same theme. Anyways, while the Protoss is apparently now moving towards the 5th base right here of Ragnarok, the Zerg is also moving towards the 5th base here of Trap. The Corruptor Ball actually pretty scary right now too. They can really, you know, puke down a couple of those bases quite easily. And there we go. Caustic Spray is going to be used on one of these Nexi. And this can definitely snipe it before the Protoss player can return. 9 drones ended up going down here. And you know what? This is starting to be a really sick match. I don't actually know who's winning, because now that a lot of these Corruptors have been forced out, right? What is their purpose? Like, they are not going to be good against, well, literally anything other than, like, oh my god, actually the Stalkers, hold that thought, because they now get the kills. Absolutely massive. I guess they can go ahead and kill the Mothership very easy too, but, I mean, now you have a lot of army supply caught up in Corruptors with a Protoss player that doesn't have a lot of flying units, so as long as you don't really, you know, lose too many structures here, I think this is just fine here for Trap. It's a lot of dead supply. I guess he could, like, reinforce this with additional Brute Lords. I wouldn't actually mind seeing that either. So after seeing a Roach Ravager Ling Bane mid-game, Zerg decided to then transition towards Brute Lords and Corruptors. Now he's making the switch down again. He's stacking down in a way towards Hydra Lurker. Very, very cool. Zealots now, though, have made their way towards the base once again in the top section. There's a lot of units, though, still available over there. At the same time, Ragnarok is pushing. He left a couple of units behind, but right now, ooh, some beautiful storms do land on top of those Hydras. That's their real arch nemesis. Would love to see those Corruptors go after the Prism, actually. There it goes. Only one of them actually now got picked off, but a lot of the Protoss units actually walked around. This is a massive engagement right now for Trap, trying to see if he can surround this Zerg player. Those Brute Lords usually really benefit from their extreme range, but since the Zerg army is completely caught out of position, Protoss managed to get underneath. I think that these Brute Lords are pretty much as good as dead. Oh my god, what an engagement right here for Trap. I thought that this fight was actually going to go beautifully there for Ragnarok, but turns out engagements right here are all coming down to position. At the same time, recall towards the expansion here up north. Does look like Ragnarok will be able to kill the Nexus, but I mean, a lot of the Zerg units ended up falling there too. He's not really going to be able to now morph those Corruptors into Brute Lords anymore. He's got to be careful though. Oh my god, a little bit of target firing. There you go. That one Archon. Get him, boy. Oh, he could have probably gotten one more kill there. Not quite going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, though, we're once again in that mid-game force. Zerg is stuck on what seems to be just Hydra Ling. Not really a unit composition you're really aiming for. He does have a lot of gas. Yeah, I was going to say, I think if he gets the time right now, he will go for Lurkers. He's getting himself the Seismic Spines ability, which is amazing. Increases the range of those Lurkers to 10, which far outranges pretty much everything here that Protoss has. I think Storm actually is also 10 range. You get what I'm trying to say. It's a very, very potent unit composition right now. Corruptors once again flying in. They're trying to get an angle to maybe, once again, Caustic Spray down one of those bases. Ay, you know what? Trap with that beautiful surround here. I think he must have walked those units around. Killed all of those brutes, and now all of a sudden, he's in such a beautiful position here. manages to go after the third base right now. I don't think he can really go down this ramp, because especially now with the additional lurkers morphing in, he's going to have a very hard time doing so. But without, like, the burrow improvement, it's going to be difficult to really use those lurkers to defend the main base. Like, how are you going to get close enough? Yo, Trap, I think you just want to go for the main base of the Zerg, to be honest, man. That's where all the tech is at. This is a base that takes, like, 10 minutes to build up. It takes a very long time. Zerg really can't replenish it. Protoss doesn't have that much mining anymore either, though. I mean, he's retaking the base over here. This is actually a very important base at this point. Yeah, that's also the reason I think why Trap has decided to not go for the main. Only sending a couple units right now. The thing is, as soon as he goes with his main army towards the main, the Zerg will definitely move forward with the lurkers. And in a way, this Nexus over here is kind of his lifeline. He really cannot do very much, because that one pesky overlord over here is blocking the expansion from going down at the more natural position. So Trap playing very cautiously here. Lurkers, though, I mean, with both of the upgrades, with the adaptive talents and then also the seismic spines, they can be used offensively. They have a lot more range here than this Protoss army. Protoss, though, is still very far ahead supply-wise. But a lot of that supply is caught up in workers. And you know what? Lurkers are all about positioning. And all of a sudden, Trap sleeping on the job. The lurkers move forward. Ooh, gonna be so careful there. If he gets one set of spines off on those High Templar, this is pretty much game over for the Protoss immediately. Massive error there by Trap. Gets caught with his pants down. Ends up losing this Nexus in just a blink of an eye, and a lot of those probes as well. Now, a few of them will be recalled. Apparently, though, Trap is going to use this opportunity right now, since the Zerg is out of position to defend his base, to potentially move forward and go in for that kill. Still, though, right now, Ragnarok can go in for the surround. Nice storm being utilized there. A lot of damage is being done. Archons are preventing a bunch of those lurkers from burrowing as well. There's not that much... Wait, is there any detection? Okay, yeah, he does have that one observer still available. This is such a clutch battle, but I think the Zerg just barely ends up winning it. Trap was forced into this position because he ended up losing that Nexus. He still does have a couple of Archons remaining. Looks like the lurkers will end up dying. There's actually one Dark Templar. There's one Dark Templar, but no detection. There's no detection here for the Zerg. There's still the Hive available, though. With this Hive, he can still morph in an Overseer. Oh my god, this one Dark Templar was going in for the victory. You know what? Protoss has nothing. I mean, this is his army supply right now. He's got literally... Oh, the Observer died too. What a sick final minute of this game. He literally has 2 army supply at this point. As soon as he GG's out. There's the 1 Observer, which was 1 supply worth, and then the 1 Dark Templar. And as soon as the Observer was killed, apparently that was also the moment where Ragnarok was the one who obtained the victory. What a ridiculous ending to this game. That was really something. Now, was this necessarily game over yet? Okay, so this is the moment where Trap GG's. There's this 1 Dark Templar, and then there's the 1 Overseer over here, and then, you know, the 5 Hydras and 1 Lurker, right? The issue is that Trap doesn't have a mining base. He does have that economical advantage in the sense that he's got 26 probes, but all of those probes are long distance mining a base that doesn't exist. Thing is, though, there are 3 of these photon cannons. Maybe if Trap was like able to restart a Nexus over here and you know, buy himself enough time to get these probes back to mining, there may have been a chance for him. I actually think that this is maybe just a bit of a preemptive GG. The issue is, though, that he doesn't really know. Like, Zerg has a lot of vision on the map pretty much all the time, right? But he doesn't really know exactly how much mining the Zerg has at this point. So he decides to call GG. Probably could have stuck in this game for just a little bit longer, if I'm being brutally honest with you. I really feel like he did have a chance to potentially get back into this. You know what? Imagine if he would have right-clicked on the main base instead, right? Imagine if he would have sent those couple of Zealots and that 1 Stalker, I think is what it was, to the Hive instead. And prevented that 1 Overseer from being morphed in. Then the DT could have finished everything, because there would have been 0 chance for the Zerg player to get any detection. That would have been crazy. An extremely close game. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile alright. And I will see you once again in the next one.